IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I am streaming to you live from the Carpathian Basin in Central Europe. I hope everybody has had a great week, staying healthy, staying strong, and looking forward to some nice days ahead. This class, we are looking at the reading section, specifically academic reading module, but again, for the general reading, your section 3 is very similar to the academic reading, so this is good for general students as well. And the focus here, of course, is studying and practicing the right skills for reading to get those higher band 7s, 8s, and 9s. Hi, Kyber. Nice to see members in this class already. Hi, Taimur, Shaik, Shirojidin. Nice to see some of our regular students. While we wait for some of your classmates, this lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS success, check us out there. For the general IELTS, visit us at gieltshelp.com. That's general IELTShelp.com. On both of these websites, we have loads and loads of great materials for you. This is our academic IELTS web portal here with the blue background. Click that big red button. Do yourself a favor. Join the premium package. Get access to original exams, interactive courses, and lots of HD videos. The general, same idea. Green background. Click that big red button to join us there. Hi, Maksud. Hi, Amir. Hi, Rashika. Nice to see more of our members in the class also. Okay, everyone. Make sure to download and link the app. Academic IELTS Help links to the webpage aehelp.com, and the General IELTS Help app links to gieltshelp.com. You'll see for the app the same logos as you see here. And there are some free computer-based exams there for you also. If you have questions, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. Okay, we'll have classes all the way till Saturday at this time as well. Tomorrow, members will finish that task 2, and tomorrow we'll have a speaking part 2 for everyone also. So tomorrow, task 2 finish and speaking part 2. Right now, we'll get into some reading. So let's get into some reading. I know lots of you are waiting and saying, hey, let's get into this right now. So here we go. Reading passage 2, this is coming from exam 5. You actually have audio for this in your course. For those of you who have memberships and access, you can actually listen to a British person read this for you as well. So here we have this passage. The first step, students, okay, when you're in the reading section of your exam, you have to read, okay? There are no shortcuts. It's much more difficult to just try to search for answers and not read the passage. You do have enough time to read, so make sure to read. Okay, reading is very, very important here. Step number 1 in the reading section always is look at the title and read the title carefully and predict what is going to be in the passage. So that's what we're going to do first. Step 1, read the title carefully, visualize, and predict the contents of the passage. Okay, from your own knowledge, obviously. Okay. All right, think critically. Ask what, why, how. All right, so let's do that. So here, the title is Earthquake Preparedness. So being prepared for an earthquake. When you think about this, when you think about earthquake preparedness, what comes to mind? So what does it mean to be prepared for an earthquake? So what's all of the information that you think of before you read any more words when you think of what does it mean to be prepared for an earthquake? What does that mean for you? Abhishek says an earthquake drill. Yeah, that means practicing in case of an earthquake. Yeah. It's also fire drills, practicing for fires, right? So in this case, it's an earthquake drill. Okay, Pooja says, what do you do when you face an earthquake? Yeah, but Pooja, what do you do? So don't just paraphrase the question, Pooja, but give an answer. What do you do? So think about it. Yeah, Charlie, it's the same thing. So instead of just thinking about a question, how to avoid casualties, think about the answer. So what do you do? So Faramars Tavasolian says, take some precautions. What are those precautions? Like, have bottled water, a flashlight. Okay, when you're predicting, you want to be specific. All right. Sakibo says maybe some medication. Charlie says, get out of the house, get out of the office. Okay. Find open ground. Kyber says, check your hazards in your home. What kind of things? Do you have a huge glass chandelier that weighs 500 kilograms, which could fall and smash and crush? Okay. Check for hazards in the home. Okay. Miguel Barron says, have some batteries. Aman John says, move away from buildings. Demon Slayer says, have an emergency kit. Timur Irfan says, have a fire extinguisher, I think is what you're saying. Okay. Fire extinguisher, students, that's the device used to put out fires. That's a very good word to know in English. Fire extinguisher. That's when you put the fire out. Okay, good. Now you're rolling with it. Now you're thinking about the right way. So that's what you want to do, okay? So when you predict using the title of the passage, think in detail and see the pictures in your mind clearly. All right, fantastic. So you're doing that. You're doing a good job. This is happening super, super fast, quickly, right? You're seeing all those pictures. And then step 2, take a look at the questions. Read ones that have information from the passage and ignore ones that have extra and false information. Okay, so that's your next step. So step 1, read the title, predict with a lot of detail. Step 2, look at the questions. And all of this is happening fast, students. You have to only do all of this, read and answer questions in 20 minutes. Okay, so we look at the questions. Here we have our questions. Do the following statements agree with the claims of the writer in passage 2? Yes, no, not given. Do I read this type of question before reading the passage? So, do I read this type of question? Rutwick says no. Abhishek says no. Bhumi says no. Jack Patel says no. And so many of you are saying are no, which is fantastic, okay? When I first started teaching IELTS years ago, so many people said, yeah, read it. And I was like, oh, no. But I'm so happy that these bad habits are changing. And now students are realizing that these kinds of questions are an absolute waste of time to read before the passage. So do not read yes, no, not given, or true, false, not given. It's the same, obviously, same idea. Okay, so good. You're realizing that that's just a waste of time. You can have yes, no, not given questions where the answer is not given, no, no, not given, yes. Ugh, imagine reviewing that and wasting time. Okay, so questions 18 to 21. It says complete each sentence with the correct ending. So this is sentence completion type question. And here we have 4 questions or half sentences. And then here we have 7 choices that will be the answers, or at least 4 of the 7 will be the answers for this. So what do I do here? What should I do with this kind of question where I have half of the sentence here and I have 7 possible choices? What do I do? Kyber says read only the questions, and Kyber is right. Okay, again, the logic is all of this information is in the passage. So reading it or skim reading it fast to get an idea, it's good. It's somewhere in there. Okay, but don't read these choices because 3 of the 4 of these, which means almost half, okay, are false or wrong information, and we don't know which ones, and that's confusing. So read the statements only, okay? So let's do that. Let's read this together. The first step after waiting out aftershocks is 2. Poor construction results in buildings that offer. Even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they... Buildings along the west coast of North America and Japan are designed to. All right, so I know that there's going to be information in the passage about buildings, specifically buildings in North America, Japan. I know there's going to be information about construction, well-constructed buildings, not well-constructed buildings, and there will be some information about aftershocks. Aftershocks are the smaller earthquakes that happen after the big earthquake. Okay, good. That's some valuable information for me as the student or as the candidate. Okay, and then here I have kind of summary type question. So it says complete the summary using the list of words A to H below. So I have a list of words A to H. I don't need those right now, but I can definitely read the summary because, again, this summary is really helpful. Okay, this gives me, it's kind of like an abstract. Does everybody know what an abstract is? If you're an academic student and you're in university studying master's, PhD, bachelor's, you'll know that the abstract is kind of like a summary, but it comes before the passage. It's called an abstract. It's kind of a synonym for summary, but it comes before the passage in many academic journals, okay? So this is kind of like an abstract of the passage, so it's really good to read that, okay? Kyber, it's not that kind of abstract. It's another definition, okay? So let's read this. I'll make a note after. So read with me. Earthquake planning. Planning is incredibly important for surviving an earthquake. They must make sure in advance that they have appropriate to survive after the event. Is the most critical resource after an earthquake, since municipal sources may be damaged and unavailable. Conversely, will be less scarce because it is less likely to be compromised in an earthquake. Some measures to take in preparation for an earthquake include storing medical supplies in a safe place, not hanging picture frames above your bed, and identifying in your home and workplace. In the event of an earthquake, try to call for help using your phone, or if you are trapped, try on a pipe. So all you do here is you read this summary with the blanks excluded, of course. And so now I know that there will be information in the passage about earthquake planning and what kind of steps to take in preparation for an earthquake. And we had one of our students mention that with the prediction. So that was great. Okay. All right. So a couple of important notes for this step. Okay. For some questions, like complete the sentence endings, you need to read only the part of the question that is included, that is in the passage. Okay. Some questions are really helpful to understand the passage, like summary completion. Okay. This is a sort of abstract for the passage. Okay. Now, abstract is used in scientific journals which is given to the reader before the journal discussion. Okay, so you university students will remember these abstracts. Okay, so it's not the same kind of abstract, Kyber, that you're thinking of where you can't touch or see it clearly. This is another definition of the word abstract. Okay. All right, so let's get into reading. That's our next step. So step 3 is read the passage in about 10 minutes, paying attention to be an active reader, focusing on the main idea of each paragraph and visualizing the content. Be sure to know and respect the correct structure of an essay. Okay, introduction with thesis plus body plus body. You'll see why I'm saying this in a moment here, plus conclusion. Okay, so keep that structure in mind. You're always looking at an essay. These IELTS passages, and even the reading short passages in the general IELTS, they're really just different kinds of essays. Okay, you might have some expository essays, some persuasive essays, but at the end of the day, they're essays. Okay. Active reader, Roman Baral, means that you're thinking about the information while you're reading. So you're creating pictures in your mind, and you're also thinking about the what, why, how structure. What is the author saying? Why are they saying this? How are they saying this? We're going to do this right now. Bekjan's saying, do we need to understand the whole passage? Not necessarily, Bekjan. Okay, so that was a good question. As long as you, here's a bit of information. So as long as you understand 70% of the passage and use good logic, you can get a band 7 or even more. Okay, I've seen it. So you can do quite well if you get about 70% of the passage and you're using your logic wisely. Okay? All right, we're going to do this, so you'll see. Okay? Here we go. Let's do it. So we're going to go back. We're going to do some active reading. Pay attention to all those elements. Again, practice will make perfect. Now, for full-time students in a Canadian, American, Australian university, you have to read about 150 pages like this each week. So you have to have good reading fluency to survive in university. Okay? All right. Here we go. Let's start reading from the top. Tamonish, to get the high bands in an easier way, you can't just skim read. It's not going to work, Tamonish. Okay, it won't work. You can't just skim read. It's not enough. All right, here we go. So read with me and we'll do it together. Earthquake preparedness. Of all natural disasters, earthquakes are likely to be the most devastating. Though earthquakes, most of the time, are only weak tremors which are not even strong enough to knock picture frames off walls, at their strongest, earthquakes can destroy entire cities, killing thousands and displacing millions. For regions of the world affected by earthquakes, being prepared for the big one is crucial to surviving when it eventually occurs. Earthquake preparedness takes three forms: education, construction, and planning. That's the introductory paragraph. It gives us the background. It gives us the importance of the question. It gives us the thesis of the question. I can see these very clearly. What's the thesis here, students? What is the thesis of this question? And you have to pay really careful attention. You can't just skim read, Justina or Jyoti. It's not enough. And I'm going to show you exactly why and how. So what is the thesis in this introductory paragraph? And if you are skim reading, please do not just skim read the introductory paragraph. That's the worst. Nafosat says it's education, construction, and planning. It's the last sentence. Very good, Hina. Yeah. So this very last sentence, earthquake preparedness takes three forms: education, construction, and planning. That's the thesis that's given to us by the author. So what is the first body paragraph going to be about? So according to this thesis, what is the first body paragraph going to be about in this essay, or the first one or two body paragraphs potentially? Alex Joseph says it will be about education. Yeah, absolutely. So you know that it's about education. What is the middle of this essay going to be about? Very good, everyone. Very good. Nice. So you understand the concept of a good thesis. The middle of the essay will be about construction, right? Yeah, there we go. There's a little bit of delay between us and you, but yeah, construction. And then we know that near the end, it's going to be about planning. So just understanding this concept of thesis and how that works will already give you an advantage when you're looking at the questions to know where the information is. Is that clear? Okay, so just a quick tip there, all right? So the thesis statement will give you the organization of the essay. So pay special attention to it. Okay, that will really help you identify where information can be located. Okay, good. So let's do this. Let's keep reading. The speed that I'm going to read is absolutely an average speed. It's an okay speed. All right. Yeah, Bekjun, you should have a thesis in all of your reading passages. The IELTS examiners are very good authors, and they will have it. Sometimes, Bekjun, the thesis will be an indirect thesis, but you'll also find direct thesis statements. It's always there. Okay. All right. Here we go. So let's get into it. Read with me. Those who grow up in earthquake zones are very familiar with so-called earthquake drills. These exercises take place multiple times each year in school, and students practice the appropriate steps to take in the event of an earthquake. The first step is to take shelter under a strong structure. In schools, this is often a wooden desk. In the absence of such furniture, a door frame is recommended, as this is the strongest structural part of any room. Next, drop to the ground, cover your head and neck, and only move if there is a safer place to seek shelter within short crawling distance. Keeping your head and neck covered are of critical importance since falling hazards are one of the biggest dangers in an earthquake. Once the shaking has stopped, people are advised to wait for any aftershocks to occur. Many deaths and injuries occur during aftershocks, smaller earthquakes, which occur shortly after the initial quake. So staying sheltered is recommended for up to 10 minutes after the main event. Once sufficient time has passed, people should get to open ground, taking care to avoid falling hazards, especially glass structures such as windows. Okay, so there we read about education for earthquake, what to think about when an earthquake is happening. And of course, hopefully, many of you were visualizing this. So hopefully many of you saw the table and saw the person underneath the table covering their head with their arms. Okay, so they're hiding under the table. Hopefully you saw another person hiding in the door frame, also maybe covering their head. Okay, and then maybe you saw a person or yourself moving to open ground. Maybe it's a soccer field, okay, where you're away from buildings and so on. So maybe you saw yourself crawl to that door frame. So that's a lot of visualization, and you have to visualize, okay? Very, very important. Very, very important to see what you're reading. All right? Okay. Picture it and include yourself. That's a really, really important part of this, is to be in the picture. Don't just see random people moving around without faces, but actually picture yourself, your friends, okay? All right? Okay, let's keep going. Let's do this. So here we go. One of the biggest factors that affects the number of casualties in an earthquake event is the quality of the construction of buildings that people work and reside in. In areas with poor construction standards, these buildings provide little to no protection against earthquakes. In the major earthquake that occurred in Haiti in 2010, poor construction standards were to blame for a large proportion of the casualties. While other countries have high standards, often these standards are not designed with earthquakes in mind. Many buildings may be built to an otherwise high safety standard, but be almost as defenseless as the Haitian buildings when facing a strong earthquake. In high-risk earthquake zones, all buildings must be constructed with an eye to earthquake preparedness. Buildings in areas such as Japan and the west coast of North America are constructed to shift a certain amount along with an earthquake. This elasticity allows the buildings to survive the quake instead of shaking and being knocked down. They are shaken and returned to their original place. This type of construction greatly minimizes the risk to inhabitants in the event of a major earthquake. Okay, so here we're talking about construction. We talked about 3 examples of construction. 1, poor construction, like what happened in Haiti with bad construction, a lot of buildings collapsing. 2, good construction, but good construction which is not designed for earthquakes, which are still dangerous if an earthquake happens. And 3, good construction that is designed for earthquakes, like in Japan and North America. So I have each of those points in mind. That's the active reading that a student was asking about earlier. Okay, let's keep going. Now, this is reading, students, so I'm not just lecturing here. I'd like you definitely to read with me. Okay? All right, here we go. Now, I'm guessing that this next paragraph will be about planning, okay, which makes sense. The final form of earthquake preparedness is planning. People in high-risk areas must have a plan for what to do in the event of an earthquake, and they must plan beforehand so they have appropriate supplies to survive in the initial days after the event. The most important resource after an earthquake is water, and it is recommended people keep enough water for a week, approximately 28 liters per person. Food will not usually be difficult to come by, but water, which relies on municipal delivery systems, which are very likely to be compromised by the quake, is precious. Other critical items, such as medical supplies and personal documents, should also be stored in a safe place so they can be retrieved after the event. Other measures which are useful to prepare for an earthquake are keeping a flashlight and whistle next to your bed, not hanging falling hazards such as picture frames over your bed, arranging a family contact person outside of your area, arranging a family meeting place, and identifying both hazards and refugee areas within your home, school, and workplace. Okay, so lots about planning, lots of visualization there. You should remember points like the most valuable resource is water, not food. Keep a flashlight, keep a whistle. Okay. Let's keep going. Keep reading. Again, read with me. In the event that you are trapped after an earthquake, do not struggle or kick up dust. Instead, try to make sounds such as blowing on a whistle or tapping on a pipe so that rescuers may locate you. If you have a mobile phone, use it to call or text for help. Earthquakes can be deadly. All the preparedness in the world will not help if a sufficiently large earthquake hits the wrong spot. What can be done, however, is to improve the chances of survival. Through education, appropriate construction, and diligent planning, countless lives can be saved. All right, so that is clearly the conclusion. Notice how it ends on a paraphrase of the thesis as well. Okay, kind of reminding you of all that. All right, so let's keep going. Zelda says, I think we practiced this passage before. If you've practiced the passage before, students, that's great. It's a really good idea, Zelda, to reread some passages that you've done before just to see how much your reading has improved. So there's no shame, students, in going back over the same passages. We will have some brand new passages coming up for you in the next couple weeks, by the way. All right, so let's do these yes, no, not given questions together. Now, with the yes, no, not given, the strategy that you should use is first figuring out if the information is given or not, and then figuring out if the information is true or not, okay? So the idea for yes, no, not given questions is, as step number one, figure out if it's given or not given. Okay, that's your first step. If it's given, then your second step is to figure out whether it's true or yes, or false or no. Okay, so that's what you have to figure out. Now, to do that, you have to ask some logical questions. All right, the first question that you need to ask yourself, okay, this is for yes, no, not given. Question number one is this information important for this passage topic? Okay. If yes, then likely given. If no, then not given. Okay. So that's what we're going to do first here. So let's figure this out. always ask the full question. So here, the statement is most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage. Full question, is it important for earthquake preparedness to know whether or not most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage? Is it important to know that? So is it important to know for earthquake preparedness that most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage? Yeah, sure. Yeah, so many of you are saying, yeah, that's important. So we say, yes, it's important. So important. So if it's important, therefore it must be given. So then we go on to step 2, right? And we have to ask, is it true? So is it true that most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage? Abhishek says, no, I don't think so. Janeel says yes. Boomy says yes. Amir says no. Billy says no. Savardeep says yes. Okay. Well, what if your answer is I don't know? No, I don't know. Sad face. So I don't know. Okay. Then what do? You take a look. Okay. Now, if you're visualizing, you should remember where this is found. And usually true, false, not given are in the order of the passage. So I'm going to check the introduction. Oh, I'm happy again because I know what I'm doing. Smiley face. Okay. All right. This is something that I would look for in the introduction because clearly the strength of an earthquake is most likely discussed in the introduction because it's giving background information. Okay, background information. So I'm going to check the introduction and look for that. Now I'm looking for the word strong or strength. Okay. So earthquakes, most of the time, are only weak tremors, which are not even strong enough to knock picture frames off walls. Okay, so here it's telling me that most earthquakes are not strong enough to knock picture frames off walls. Most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage. Well, if it can't knock a picture frame off your wall, it's likely not going to do much damage. So the answer is no. Okay, now make sure you use the correct format. It's not true, false, not given. It's yes, no, not given. Okay, it's yes, no, not given. All right, so with the same kind of strategy, we keep going. The strongest part of a room is furthest away from the windows that can shatter. Okay. Is it important to know that the strongest part of the room is the furthest away from windows that can shatter? Is that important to know for this passage? Yeah, so Farah Mars says it's not exactly said, it's no. Okay. So, therefore, it's not given. One way that you can figure out not given answers is when they're awkward and untrue. Okay? So, here's a little bit of a tip that I haven't given you before, and you'll see these types of statements in the true, false, not given, or the yes, no, not given. If the statement seems both false and awkward. Okay. It is most likely not given because the writer would not mention such information. Okay, that makes sense. That's logical. So what do I mean? The strongest part of a room is furthest away from windows that can shatter. That doesn't make sense at all, because what if you have a window in the room, and again, use your visualization, that can break, but right underneath the window, you have a steel table, a metal table, okay? If there were an earthquake, I would feel very comfortable getting underneath a metal table, even if it's right beside the window. So why would the IELTS examiner make such a crazy, outlandish, irrational statement? They wouldn't. So I'm not even going to search for it, okay? So if it seems false and really awkward, there's not going to be any information given around that, all right? So use your logic, all right? Okay. So here we go with the next one. Your head and neck are the weakest parts of your body and must be protected. Okay? Your head and neck are the weakest parts of your body and must be protected. Is it important to know that the head and the neck are the weakest parts of the body and must be protected? I would say no, for the same reason of number 15. Okay, so no, therefore not given. Why? Because the head, I don't know about you, but my head is pretty hard. I have a skull there, okay? Your neck is pretty strong. It has to be protected, okay? That's true. But I don't think the author would say that it's the weakest parts of your body. That's false and strange. Okay? So it's really false and strange to say that the head and the neck are the weakest parts of the body. Let's take a look at that. Okay. So maybe you're thinking, I don't know, right? So maybe you're thinking maybe. And so we can look for this information here, the head and the neck, because we read about that. So again, if you have to search specifically for information, and that was in education, right? Not in construction, that was in education, so that was still body paragraph 2. And right away I can find it. Keeping your head and neck covered are of critical importance, since falling hazards are one of the biggest dangers in an earthquake. So it says that keeping your head and neck covered are important, but it doesn't say that you have to keep your head and neck covered because they're weak parts of your body. It says that you have to keep your head and your neck covered because there are a lot of falling hazards, so falling objects. So in this case, the author doesn't give that information, so it's not given. Okay, so again, it's not given for the same reason that that question 15 is not given. Okay, so no, not given, not given. Okay, aftershocks are incredibly dangerous. Is it important to know? So in earthquake preparedness, is it important to know if aftershocks, the so-called smaller earthquakes, are important or not? Yeah, so Umid says yes, and it is, so we know it's given. And is it true? So then we ask the second question, is it true that aftershocks can be very dangerous? Yeah, and Pooja says it's true. So again, it's true, so it's yes. Okay, you should not have to search for that if you are reading actively, because it says that, hey, you have to stay in the same spot for 10 minutes. Okay, so no, not given, not given, yes. Looking good. Okay. and then we keep going. So here we get to the questions where it's complete the sentence. So the trick here is complete on your own. From your own knowledge, and then match. Okay, so that's what you have to do. You have to complete these from your own knowledge, from what you got from the passage, and then match. So the first step after waiting out aftershocks is to. So from your own knowledge, from what you read, what is the first thing to do after the aftershock? So you're waiting, the earthquake happens, then those smaller little shocks happen after. What do? So Charlie Sen says, leave the building. Boomy says, go to an open place. Chut bar. Very good. Okay, so very good. All right. Okay. So now we find the closest match to those answers. A, are not designed to withstand earthquakes. B, leave the building and find open ground. That seems like a perfect match. So I'm not even going to keep reading, but maybe I should, because there could be a better match. A modicum of other earthquake protection, move in response to an earthquake, lack the flexibility of Haitian buildings, withstand earthquakes. Okay, little protection in the earthquake. None of those seem okay, so I'm going to put B in there. So B. Now, a next step, okay, so first you give your own answer, then you find the match, and the next step is read the two together so you make sure that the grammar makes sense. The first step after waiting out aftershocks is to leave the building and find open ground. Is the grammar okay? So if I read the complete sentence here with this, is the grammar okay? Yeah, it is. So it matches my own thinking. The grammar is okay. So there's a 99% chance that it's the right answer. Okay? So that's what we keep doing with these. Poor construction results in buildings that offer what? So poor construction results in buildings that offer, my finish here is little protection. Little or no protection from earthquakes. Okay, so that's how I would finish that sentence. Poor construction results in buildings that offer little or no protection from earthquakes. So I'm going to look for a match. Okay. Are not designed to withstand earthquakes. That looks interesting. A modicum of earthquake protection. I don't know. Move in response to an earthquake. Lack the flexibility that Haitian buildings have. Withstand earthquakes due to their rigid construction. Little protection in an earthquake. This one seems like the closest match. Okay. I don't know the definition of that word, so I don't want to choose it, especially when this looks more accurate. So I'm going to take G, and I'm going to put it into that sentence. Poor construction results in buildings that offer little protection in an earthquake. Grammar's good. I stick with it. So G it is. Okay, that's how I do it. Careful students, like sometimes what students will do is, oh, that looks like a really difficult word. I don't know what it means, so it must be the right word because they're trying to trick me. What? No, okay, not necessarily. That's not what's going on. If you don't know what a word means, be really careful, okay? It could be a completely wrong answer. So that's a really weird strategy. Don't do that, all right? I've seen students do that where they think if they don't understand the words in the question, it must be correct because it's difficult or something. All right, number 20. Even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they are not made for earthquakes. That would be my ending for this. Even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they are not made for earthquakes. Okay. Are not designed to withstand earthquakes. Ooh, that looks really close to are not made for earthquakes. So I can go through the other ones and I'll realize that A is definitely the closest one. So A it is. And I can read it with the sentence again. So even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they are not designed to withstand earthquakes. Sounds good. All right, buildings along the west coast of North America and Japan are designed to move with an earthquake. Okay, so I remember picturing how those buildings can kind of move if there's an earthquake so that they don't fall down. Ferdowsian says withstand an earthquake. Sure. So let's see. Any one of those here are not designed. I've picked that one. Leave the building. No. Move in response to an earthquake. Oh, move with an earthquake. Move in response to an earthquake. That looks really good. So I read the other ones and I realize that, oh, okay, my answer is D. And then I read it together. Buildings along the west coast of North America and Japan are designed to move in response to an earthquake. Oh, that sounds perfect. So I'll stay with that. Okay. All right, so I have just one set of questions left. It's my summary completion, where I have to put in the correct letters for the word. So here is earthquake planning, which is the third body paragraph. I have my questions here. And then I have my choices here. So again, the trick is the same as what we just did. Read it, think about the correct answer, and then choose. So read, think about your answer, then choose. Okay? All right. So planning is incredibly important for surviving an earthquake. They must make sure in advance that they have appropriate to survive after the event. Supplies would be my word. So they must make sure in advance that they have appropriate supplies or equipment. Maybe equipment or supplies. Something like that would be my guess. So I look, let's see. I don't see equipment, but hey, look at that. I see supplies there. Okay, that looks good. So I put in the letter H, and I keep going. Okay, so correct answers should come from your own mind. If you are sitting the IELTS and your hope is to get a high band score by matching keywords and by skimming and matching with the passage, you're not going to get a band 6.5 or more. And if you do, then you could probably get a lot better mark if you did the correct steps. Okay? So the IELTS is designed to not let people pass who are not actually using information from the content, from the reading or in the listening, and from their own mind. If you're playing a game of Go Fish, blue fish, red fish, match, bing. If you're playing Go Fish, yeah, you get a mark for Go Fish, which will be a 5.5. All right, the rest of these ones, so 23, 24, 25, and 26, I'll leave those for you to practice at home. There are the choices, And hey, if you think you have the right answer, send me an email and I'll send you the answer key with a discount for our premium packages. Okay, so if when you finish that at home, send me an email and I'll send you back the answer key with a discount to join our premium packages on our website. So my email is adrian@aehelp.com. Send me your answers there, and I will send you the answer key. If you can't wait to join, then AE Help for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Thank you so much, students, for joining me today. Tomorrow, I will host a class for everybody on speaking part 2. And of course, members, we will finish that task 2 essay with the body paragraphs and the conclusion that we started today. Much love back at you, Kyber. Bye-bye. Jainil. Hadis, you're very, very welcome. Alex, I look forward to seeing your answers. Ban, thank you. You're making me blush. Have an awesome day, everyone. Much love to all of you from Budapest. I'm Adrian. Bye for now.